Okay, welcome everyone to Blogging for Insurance Agencies. We are very excited to have you with us today as we have a really great webinar planned for you. And again, the webinar topic is Blogging for Insurance Agencies. I am Monica Barraquette. I am the VP of Operations here at Agency Revolution. And I run client and marketing operations. The marketing operations part was just newly added to my list of responsibilities, which is why you heard me probably say that I haven't done this in a while. So, wish me luck, cross your fingers for me, and hopefully we actually have a great webinar for you and a recording at the end of it, because that would be that would be good, so that we could get it out to you all. This picture of me here is me with my two boys. My son Matt is my oldest. He's a junior in college at Ithaca College, and my son Lucas is 12 years old. He is a seventh grader. And we just recently took a trip to Poland, which is where I was born. And this is the Tatra Mountains of Poland. We went on a 3-hour hike to this beautiful lake, and I was super winded and almost could not breathe, but we made it. So I was just soaking my feet in here to try to get the feeling back in them. But it was a really great trip. And now get to
Hi, my
meet
name is
David
David
Chorley.
Chorley. You're gonna see that people just call me Chorley, and I run the client success team. I've been the team lead here for a few years on that. So likely you might have spoken to me here. 'Cause I deal with a lot of direct one-on-one. I've got a great relationship with a lot of customers here at AR. This is a picture of me proposing to my wife on Splash Mountain. May it rest in peace. It is no longer in existence. But we've been married for quite a while now. We're expecting our second child in about a month. My wife could not be more ready for that. In addition to the hot Phoenix summers, she is 8 months pregnant. So,
Wow,
yeah, so we'll be very happy when the summer ends. Let's just put it that way.
that's amazing. You've got a little one and a little one on the way, and
Yeah, two boys too. It's two little boys.
that'll be an exciting household. And by the way, I'm super sad about Splash Mountain. It was actually, we just visited Disney in March and they were shutting
Yeah,
it down and
yeah.
redoing it. And I was very bummed that I didn't
And
get
I've
to run.
purposely like not like looked at like the Tiana stuff, but I've heard it's not as good. So we'll
Of
see.
course not, because it's not the old thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
we don't want anything to change. Why? Why would we want something to change? All right. This is our agenda for today's session. So we're going to talk about, in it related to blogging, we're going to talk about content and SEO, the nuts and bolts, posting frequency. We'll do a little AI demo for you on how you can make this work, in a few minutes per week. And we'll get into your questions and an open discussion. So before we talk about all of those things on the agenda, we want to cover probably the most important thing, and that is identify the goal. So before you do any of what we're going to talk about today, the important thing is for you to make sure you know why you're doing it and what you're trying to accomplish. And make sure that you and your agency leadership are aligned on what that is. Because, we've got some marketing managers in here, we've got some marketing coordinators in here, we've got agency owners in here. So the audience is pretty varied, and you just want to make sure that before you begin, you're all on the same page. What is the goal behind us doing blogging? Charlie, any commentary on that?
Well, we normally see a couple different types of goals, and if you just want to simplify it, the two major goals that we see the most often are: I'm going to blog for more brand awareness type blogs, peek behind the curtains. Hey, our agency is involved with this, or this is a little peek into our staff, highlighting employees. Um, your customers are actually more interested in that stuff than you might think. So those types of things are great opportunities for blogging, which I wish more of our customers would take advantage of. The second type are SEO related blogs that specifically are added to your website to help boost your rankings up on the almighty Google. And we see a lot more questions come down the pipe in that regard. So I think that's kind of where we're going to focus a lot of our attention today, Monica, is just talking about the SEO side. but don't forget about that brand awareness side as well. Don't overthink it. Just start off and think about blogging and maybe those two categories to start things off.
Yeah, I agree. We get a lot of questions on this, so definitely we're on the same page shortly, for sure. So let's get into content and SEO. There's a few tips we have for you here and some examples as well. Tip one, figure out what you want to write. So there's so many different options that you have in terms of what to write, whether it is about your agency or, if you want to write articles for SEO optimization, these could be educational articles that relate to just traditional insurance topics. Or maybe you have a niche market that you focus on and you want to write about that. So there's so many different options for you to explore. And actually, um, what I did was I did a really quick command on ChatGPT to see, if what it would spit out for me, because I was looking for ideas of what we could talk about as topics for you guys for this webinar. So as you could see, I just put in a very simple prompt in here. I want to write about home insurance in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and I want to make sure that these titles are going to be SEO optimized. And ChatGPT spat out all of these different options for me. Now, granted, this was a really quick prompt. I didn't do a ton of prep work in here, but as you could see, even if you can't use all of them, there's a bunch in here that you could use just to even get some ideas started. Charlie, have
Absolutely.
you used this?
Absolutely. So we'll talk about AI in a little more depth in a little later, but this is a very easy way if you're just stuck and just need a place to start. But as you can see here, just from these basic prompts, there already is sort of a set goal in mind where you say, you know what, we're not ranking nearly as well in the homeowners insurance category as we'd like to in our city that our office is based in. And so as you approach your ideas and are starting to come up with what to blog about, that is clearly part of what was put into ChatGPT here. Hey, AI, please give us some ideas on some blog topics for home insurance in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, or in the Pennsylvania state. And a lot of the focus for those blogs will eventually be from that strategy. Hey, I've got a particular product, in this case, home insurance, that I want to be ranking higher in a place like my city, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. So those two components make up that strategy. And you could say that about any insurance line, auto insurance, commercial auto, cyber liability, but focusing on a particular product like that is usually the first place to start.
And you know what I like about what ChatGPT did here is they actually, like, I didn't ask for this, but they actually listed the keywords that they're targeting with that specific title. So like you could see the topic and then below there's a little bullet point that says here's the keywords. I didn't even ask for this. It's just smart enough to tell me those things, which I
Absolutely.
thought was really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this is something that you just recently set up for a client of yours. Tell us a little bit more about this idea.
Yes. So this is sort of going with another strategy. So what we kind of just showed you just now was say, hey, okay, there's a particular insurance, a common insurance line, I should say, that I'd like to, rank higher for. Very, very, very common, and you should absolutely look at areas of your website where you're not ranking as high. But the other strategy, and someplace where often you don't tend to think about, is looking for a niche market where you can add blog to your website that your direct neighbors, your direct competition are not. Creating that niche for yourself creates an easier path towards higher ranking in obviously specific sets of categories. And this is just about as good of an example as we can find from a very engaged Agency Revolution customer that I've been working with for years. They're located in Oregon, and we found straight out of the gate that they had a couple of great niches available to them. One of them was logging insurance, since obviously they have a lot of trees around there and there's a lot of loggers. But it wasn't just enough to say, hey, we're going to add some blogs about logging. The ultimately it came down to, well, what kinds of questions do those types of customers ask you? Like on a regular basis, if someone's calling in for logging insurance information, like what kinds of questions are they asking? And can we answer one of those questions with a blog? And sure enough, I guess there's a form of coverage called logger broad form coverage, and okay, great. That sounds like a great. Let's create a blog that answers that question. Well, that was about I don't know, about 6 months ago at least, maybe a little bit over more time than that. Um, but if you actually type in what is logger broad form coverage, believe it or not, their blog comes up as the first choice in the nation. So the blog itself is the first thing that comes up on Google and acts as the gateway into this client's website. This is an absolute perfect example of what a good blog is going to be able to do for you guys. They clearly have a hold of that niche market within their state. In this case, it actually penetrated beyond that. It is actually kind of turned into a more national. I mean, not all blogs are going to be doing that, and it's probably just safe to say that, hey, you want to focus on something that at least will get you a statewide coverage. But again, it helps answer that question. It's a blog that when someone types something into Google, sometimes they'll type those things in the form of a question. And wouldn't it be nice if you had a couple of blogs positioned on your website that are going to answer that question? So just visuals are always great, and this is just a really, really good example of how that niche market strategy has really worked in their favor.
Nice. Yeah. I like it. And we had a quick question from Jerry. He wanted to know how do you make sure that you are covered from E&O exposure? So we're going to talk a little bit more about not E&O specifically, but just about what to do with the blog article that you're writing via AI Assist. But at a very high level, you're going to have to put a little bit of work into it, meaning like you know what you can't and can say. So you're going to have to do a little bit of editing and proofing, but AI can assist you in that too, because I'll show you how you could set up a template to write these different blog articles and different topics. And you could actually tell AI, hey, don't use these terms
Yeah.
because that that leaves me open to E&O exposure. And then with time, it learns what to not include. So there's still a little bit of human element, here, which you really want there to be. You don't want to be robotic and just seem like it's coming from a bot, but it definitely makes life much easier. All right. Tip 2, optimize for keywords. So it really, again, we're focusing more on blogging for SEO right now, right? So if you're blogging in order to optimize SEO on your website, you really want to pay attention to your title, your heading, your subheadings, the body of your article. And you want to make sure that all of that includes a topic and location specific keyword. And I want to take a pause here for a second just to say, what do we mean by location specific? It's very hard for an independent insurance agency to rank for home insurance nationwide. You're never probably going to achieve that. You've got Geico, you've got Allstate, you've got all the big dogs out there who are paying lots and lots of money to make sure they rank for those terms. They have a ton of resources that you don't have. But what you can accomplish is focus on your local area. So if your insurance office is in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, or in Phoenix, Arizona, or in, whatever, Fort Worth, Texas, what you can do is make sure that you focus on optimizing for that specific location and the insurance coverage that you are targeting. Torley, tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, it's just a common theme that we see a lot of people just not being as realistic as they probably should be, so that is equally important here in coming up with an SEO strategy. If you're not ranking in the top 10 in a specific set of keywords like homeowners insurance or cyber liability, then it is unrealistic for you to move on to the next major city and expect to be ranking in the top 10 there. You have to be comfortable with where you're ranking in the cities that your agencies are located in before you can move on to the next stage of things. And I just see too many people with grander goals that are unrealistic, or coming into a strategy ready to fail. In other words, you have to be comfortable in your area before moving on, and sometimes that means really looking at individual areas. You can definitely be ranking much better in homeowners insurance than auto insurance, right? So you could be ranking really great in certain areas and not so great in others. And it's important to take the time and really explore that in Google before coming up with your keyword strategy.
Nice. All right. Tip number 3. And again, feel free to post questions in Q&A. Charlie and I will try to look at those during the session, but we'll definitely answer those at the end.
Absolutely.
So tip number 3, let your personality shine. This is a quick and easy one, but it's important. You don't want to be robotic. You don't want to sound robotic. And sometimes that is the risk that you take with using, AI, because, it is a robot that is generating the content. You can definitely use different tactics to make it sound as natural and genuine as possible. But just make sure that you take just a minute or two to review whatever you write and make sure that your personality is coming through, right? It's usually best if you are focusing on more conversational style blog posts, than just like very stiff and stuffy types of content. Just want to make sure that it's easy to read, easy for people to consume, and it's something that they actually want to scan through. So this is a quick one.
Yeah, that's an
Anything on
easy
this?
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, pay attention to formatting. So this is a good one that we'll spend a little bit of time on because this is
Yes.
an area I think you would agree, Charlie, a lot of insurance agencies get this part wrong. They kind of don't understand the importance of this.
Right, or
You
they
are
just don't understand it at all and don't know that it's a factor that at least Google
correct.
uses in SEO.
Exactly. So when you're writing blog content, subheadings are really, really important. Subheadings in the body of your content because they improve the readability of that content. It's easier to scan, it's easier to just read through because it's not this big giant block of text. There's an accessibility factor in there. So, it just makes that content a lot more accessible and increased SEO as well. Google likes to see headings. So I'm going to skip ahead to the next slide and Charlie, just give us a little rundown of how
Absolutely.
headings work.
And just to piggyback on Monica, the Google will reward you for clarity. Google likes it when things are easy, clear, not confusing, right? So headings are a great way to break up content. And for example, if your goal of the blog is to rank higher, in a home insurance in a certain city, and you're making that very clear in your headings, Google's going to reward you for that because that's what Google wants to see. But in just kind of breaking it down in a perfect scenario, you've got what we call H1 or H2 tags. This is heading 1, H1, or heading 2, H2. And we know that Google is going to favor these in its initial crawl of your website. So, we don't know how much it favors. It keeps those secrets pretty close to the chest, but we do know that it looks here first. So if the goals, your keywords that you want to be ranking higher for, or the goal of your blog, you should be mentioning at least partly some of these keywords in these H1 or H2 categories. So you can see here in this case, we have homeowners, keyword homeowners, written in the H1 tag. And you can have as many of these H2 tags within the body of the blog as you want. There's no limit. But breaking up the content, as we'll talk about here in a second, with more and more of those H2 tags is going to be important. And the other thing too here is that it is very important that the H1 tag comes first. There is a hierarchy in the way Google approaches this. So if you have an H2 tag that starts things off, and then you have a bunch of H3 tags, for example, that's not nearly as powerful as having your title as H1 and then all the big ones following with H2. I know it's a little complex. It's a little complicated to explain. But most websites, certainly our website platform, has that sort of functionality built into it already, so that hey, your title is your H1, and then any subheadings that follow are usually going to be that H2 tag.
Yeah, all of that. And as Charlie said, all on our website platform, Forge, all of that is already set up and our team is there to assist you If you send in a blog article that you want to post, we do it for you. We get it set up so that it is SEO optimized for you in that way. But if you are not using the Forge website platform, you may want to talk to your website provider to just make sure that those heading settings are available on your website so that you can structure your blog post that way. And the headings, it's not just heading 1, heading 2. I mean, you could have heading 3, heading 4, heading 5 defined. The idea that Chorley was talking about is you want them to go in order, because that's how Google is going to know which piece to read first and kind of how to go down that list. So great stuff, Chorley. All right. Oops. There we go. Tip 5, add a featured image. So this seems kind of silly and sometimes unnecessary, but you know what? Believe it or not, it really is important. It just makes your content more engaging. It helps to break things up, even if you include, a featured image and then some images in the body of the blog post. It just makes it look better, be more engaging. And there is an SEO benefit to images, because if you set up your images properly on your blog post and you set up the alt tags and descriptions, etc., then there's an SEO component to having those images in there too, because you can incorporate those keywords into those images. And that's something, again, that our team will help with if you're a client of ours, but something that you definitely want to look into with whatever website provider you're using. And this is just an example of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Carly, this
So
is
this
another one of your clients, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So, blogging regularly. In this case, they have a couple of different types of blogs that they do, but in every case, they're providing great imagery. And just a note, because a lot of people don't understand this. It's really important when you're choosing images for your website in general, not just for blogs, but any images. That you're not just going online and stealing images from other websites, because you can get into some real trouble with that. Always good to look at some free copyright free library sources. If you want to jot a couple down, Pixabay and also Unsplash. Those are two really easy, free stock photo libraries that you can access at any point to pull images off of. However, Agency Revolution has its own Adobe stock library. If you are ever in need of a featured image, just please give us a call. We would be more than happy to offer that up as a service. We'll be happy to license a photo on your behalf to make your blogs look as engaging as possible.
Awesome. All right. So that was a big section, content and SEO. We've got some good time left and some good stuff left for you. So we're going to talk about the nuts and bolts. And this one and the next one are shorter because we're going to spend some time on the AI portion of this presentation. So tip 1 under nuts and bolts, consider ideal post length. This is something that sometimes feels counterintuitive, but the lengthier the blog post, the better. And I don't mean like make it long and just put a bunch of gibberish in there just because you want to hit some sort of a length. You're not in college anymore where you have to write some sort of article or something and with 2,000 words or more. But what we're talking about here is the more information and good, solid, concrete information you have in the blog post related to the topic that you want to target, like home insurance in this specific area of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, the better. You just want to make sure that this content is really broken up and organized with subheadings and even possibly lists. Chorley, tell us a little bit more about that and how to do that well.
Absolutely. So I have found that breaking up your blogs, if you're going to, let's say you're going to write 2 blogs a month, maybe one of those blogs should be in more of like a list format. I saw an article years ago that sort of proved that we as humans are more likely to gravitate to something if it's like in a list form, like 1, 2, 3. So that's why you see a lot of blog content out there, particularly on social media, that are very list centric. Here's the top 7 ways that you can keep your auto insurance down. Believe it or not, I think that actually there's something to be said about that, because I do see general like higher numbers when it comes to those types of things. So even if you're using AI driven content, as we'll see, like you can always break it down in a list format, either in bullet points or maybe like a top 10 or something like that. And actually it helps expand your blog a little bit, make it a little bit longer. But again, I think it ends up being a little bit more engaging and just an easy way to present that blog for sure.
Yep. Agreed. But avoid really large paragraphs. So what
Yes,
you don't want to do is put a giant paragraph of text, in a big 3-inch block. People are not going to read it. It seems intimidating. It feels intimidating. It's really not great. Like Google doesn't love that stuff either. So just make sure that if you make it long and you put a lot of good stuff in there, that you are utilizing tip one and breaking that paragraph up into different sections or lists or, even bullet points, whatever you find works best
absolutely.
for you.
And that's where the subheadings come into play too. You can break it up, and sometimes when you really kind of dissect a blog like this and are kind of looking at these big chunk paragraphs, how to break it down, sometimes you'll actually find that you've actually got enough topics within the blog itself to even break it up into several blogs. Like that
Yeah.
I've seen that more often than not. We're like, oh, this section of this blog actually could be a
Yeah.
blog in and of itself. So there is a great value to sort of taking a moment, dissecting it, seeing where things flow, break them up into headers, so on and so forth.
Yeah, you could tell, and that's actually not something that we have on the list of things to cover, but you just made me think. Um, you can repurpose blog content, and that's a perfect example of repurposing, right? You wrote a blog article that covers a lot of different content, but maybe there's one or two things in there that you're like, you know what, this could be its own article. I'm going to
Absolutely.
use this as a starting point. So definitely think about that too. How can you have it make it have more legs? Whatever you're
Mm-hmm.
doing, just always think about how you can get more and more and more out of it. All right, tip 3, don't forget to proofread. This is silly, this is simple. It feels like a no duh type of a situation, but you know what? You would not believe how often it happens that we see blog articles submitted to us or just posted that have grammatical errors and spelling errors and just like weird characters in there because somebody just really quickly copied and pasted it and didn't realize that the formatting sort of stuck, and it just looks messy, it looks yucky, and sometimes you can get a ding from Google on that as well. So just take a minute. It doesn't take long to do that. You could even use AI to proofread and edit your articles. So again, if it's something that you wanted to write by yourself because you don't want to use AI and you're like, no, I'm a writer, I'm a writer in addition to being an insurance agent, and I'm going to write this thing on my own, totally fine. You could use AI to sort of be your editor. So totally acceptable there.
Absolutely. And then two, use your proofreading as a way to optimize further for SEO. So remember that keyword strategy that we talked about a few moments ago. This is probably the spot in the process where you're going to want to really take a look at that. Okay, so now you've broken it up. You've got your subheadings. You've got your H2 tags, right? Okay, well, do I have the appropriate amount of keywords in there? If I'm aiming to target Bethlehem, Pennsylvania in my blog, how many times am I using that in my subheaders? 1, 2, 3. Like this is where you can really go in and take a look at further optimization opportunities.
Yes, agreed. All right, tip 4, link strategically. So this is sometimes this comes a little hard to most, but you could make it pretty easy. I would say that it is important for you to link within your blog post, but don't overthink it. You can link to your website pages, to your interior website pages, meaning if you're writing about home insurance in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, because you're a Bethlehem, Pennsylvania agency, you could just within the blog article link to your home insurance coverage page and to your Bethlehem, Pennsylvania location page if you have one. If you are a Forge client, you likely have both of those pages. We have over 200 coverage pages that come with our platform. And for every website we create, we always optimize for local SEO. So there's always a location page that's associated with your physical location. So that's a really easy way to link within the blog post into your website. Just Google just likes to see that. But I would also look for opportunities to look externally, but really be strategic with it. You don't want to just like put out a bunch of links to random websites. That's not going to help you. It's going to hurt you. Charlie, any ideas on what that can be?
Well, this is where your niche market could really come into play. Like, what do you have a stronghold of? What are you really involved in with your community? Like, I have a couple of examples. I've got a client that I work with. that's really involved in like condominium and HOA insurance. So they link to a lot of those types of associations across their state. In return, I think a lot of those link back, and it's sort of that linking together strategy that Google really likes. Same thing with another client that I've worked with that's really big in like the limousine and sort of charter bus, across the nation. So he's linking to a lot of those companies, and again, in some cases they're linking back. But even just in general, like in simpler terms, like if you had an auto insurance blog and you're talking about tips to keep your your cars in better shape, and you wanted to link to a local like auto mechanic, that maybe you work with, great. Even better if there's a quid pro quo and they're linking back. But things like that is what Google really likes to see. At the very, very least, though, you should be looking at opportunities to at least link into your internal website, right? We don't
Yeah.
see near enough of that as possible. Always remember that your blog could be the gateway into your website. The blog is, a prospect could find your blog. That's the first thing they see. So if you're talking about homeowners insurance and you don't have an easy way to get to that homeowners insurance page from the blog, or at least, get them to your quote, it's just tougher for that prospect to navigate and find their way around. So just keep that in the back of your head as you're thinking through this link strategy.
Excellent points. And actually, this ties into George's question, which we're going to answer now live. He said, excuse me, would a goal of lead generation or thought leadership fall under brand awareness? So it honestly can fall under both. It just depends on how you approach it. But if you're talking about, hey, I want to attract more leads to my website, obviously having your website optimized for SEO is going to be important, right? And so you can focus on writing blog content for SEO purposes around a specific thing. So whatever your focus is, commercial auto or, home insurance or whatever. And as Charlie just said, that those blog articles that you're writing consistently over time about this specific topic in your local area are going to drive traffic to your website. And once that person is on your website, the idea is that they will explore, right? So they will see, oh, look, this is a local agency in my neighborhood, and let me read about their team page and
Mm-hmm.
who are the humans behind this agency. Oh, wow, they have a lot of great Google reviews that are 5-star reviews, and before you know it, they might be submitting a quote request form to talk to you a little bit more. So yes, leads can definitely be a result of this approach, but there's not a magic or easy button. It does take some time. This is a long game, not a quick fix type of a situation, but totally a great approach to achieve that kind of a goal.
Absolutely. And then I'll also comment too on the brand awareness portion of that. We're not going to talk a whole lot about today about, what to do with your blog after it's published on your website. But on the brand awareness side, there's lots of options. This is where social media really comes into play. This is where the creation of a newsletter that you can periodically send out to customers. This is where emailing maybe some of this stuff out to a larger base of clients and prospects come into place. We live in a society that loves to share, right? So the brand awareness stuff is the type of thing that people share. And that's where lead generation possibly comes into play in terms of referrals. Hey, this is the agency I was telling you about. Look at how fun they are. Give them a call. You were in need of auto insurance, right? That's where people tend to talk and like to share. So for what that's worth, that's a component of that brand awareness stuff on the blogging side.
Yeah. My friend Jeff Teschke, who's on this webinar, and I introduced him to some of you, but he's the former CEO of Forge 3, and that's where I came from. The Forge 3 acquisition. Agency Revolution acquired Forge 3 2 years ago. He just wrote a blog post around the bar is so low, and what Charlie is talking about relates to that, right? The bar is so low in terms of what insurance agencies and just companies in general are doing to sort of show who they are and to provide good service. Most agencies are not doing these things. They barely have websites. I mean, Some of the websites that I come across are, downright scary, but this is the image that you're portraying out to the world. And whether it is a prospect that's looking for a new insurance policy or an existing client who's hoping to get some service from you, how you present yourself is important. And this contributes to that presentation, right? Like the things that you put out there, how active your site is, the good information that it has. Are your Google reviews featured? Does it look like, you're consistently sharing things about your agency, the humans behind your agency? All of that sort of contributes to someone looking at your agency and saying like, wow, that is an agency that I want to work with because they're impressive. They seem like they're on the ball with all of this stuff. So they're definitely going to be on the ball with supporting me and servicing my policy. So just something for you to think about that. Jeff just waved. Hey, Jeff, what's up? All right. So our agenda, posting frequency. This is a really short one too, so let's just get right to it. Quality over quantity, okay? Again, there's no shortcuts here. This is not a quick fix, easy button type of a thing. You really do want to focus on quality. Quantity is important in some ways, but quality is a lot more important here. So if your goal is to build traffic or optimize for SEO, you definitely want to post more frequently with as much SEO optimized content as possible, but you want to make sure that it's still well written, good content that is useful, because Google does pay attention to those things. You don't want to just slap some keywords together and post an article and call it a day. But if your goal is to blog because you want to get some brand awareness, then I would say diversity of content is more important than just how often you do it. The biggest thing I'll leave you with before I turn it over to Charlie for his commentary is consistency. Consistency is the most important. Just do it and do it consistently rather than worrying about, am I posting once a week or once a month or whatever.
Absolutely. And I will just piggyback on that by saying some people forget that there is a component of SEO strategy that is just adding stuff to your website. Just the mere fact that you're going in and updating your website with good quality, unique content is something that Google will reward you for. Too many people don't think about that. There's other things on their plate. Marketing, is quickly shoved under the rug as the least of the priorities. And very quickly, 3 months have gone by and you've added nothing to your website. And believe it or not, Google docks you for that sort of thing, and it's going to reward the other agencies around you who are consistently adding to their website. Blogging is the easiest way to add fresh content to your website. It's the easiest way to do that. So consistency. If you want to just set up like an easy goal for yourself, that's not too overwhelming. Try one a month. Just try one a month. Get it out there, or maybe you want to alternate between, hey, I'm going to do an SEO related blog on a specific set of keywords, and then maybe next week I'll do a brand awareness, doing something that more about our agency, and maybe just kind of rotate to go back and forth with that and start off with that sort of simple strategy to get going.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Think long-term game approach. We talked about this a little bit, so I'm just going to, just recap. Don't try to accomplish everything immediately. Take your time, be strategic about it, and remember that it's a long game. Any of these efforts really do take like 6 to 12 months to really give you some good, solid footing. And what do we mean by, don't try to accomplish everything? Again, you can't rank for every single coverage in every single state of the United States in #1 position. You have to focus on something and start there and then add to it as you begin to see results. So don't rush through it. You can't just, fast forward and skip all the other steps. You have to really approach this as a long game. So again, this is not a quick fix, not a magical solution. And for anyone that's telling you that they have some magical SEO solution for you, if you can pay them $2,000 a month to do it, they're just lying to you. It's a money game at that point. So just remember those things, that, the SEO is really, it sort of is complex because Google doesn't tell us a lot of things, but it's also very simple. It just really comes down to good content that is done consistently.
Absolutely. And it's earned as well, and
Mhm.
and the best thing that I can share with you is that I've got plenty of years of experience and I've seen it over and over and over again that this strategy does work. But to have very realistic expectations, and what Monica said is right. The SEO experience is going to be different for everybody, right? Because your surroundings, your direct competition, that's all comes into play, and that's going to be different for everybody. But in most cases, it takes longer than you might expect to build up some of that SEO. And obviously, that's kind of where the niche strategy comes into play, because if you can find a niche, then usually that's a much faster process, right? Your niche is going to, jump up the ranks very quickly. But it's the home and autos of the world. And remember that auto insurance is the hardest, most competitive set of keywords that we work with. Homeowners insurance is the second. So if that is your strategy, then that's where the long game comes into play. And really, the recommendations that you can take from this are, if that's where you want to focus on, then plan to run those blogs with those sets of keywords for 3 to 6 months and do nothing else. Just focus on that keyword in that location. And if your strategy is, I want to be ranking higher in auto insurance in Chandler, Arizona, great. So just take 6 months and just that's your focus for the next 6 months, is that set of keywords and in that city, and monitor, measure, Google yourself, Google auto insurance Chandler, Arizona every week and see if you guys are falling, rising up the
incognito
ranks.
mode. Be sure to use
Yeah,
incognito mode if you do that. Yes.
absolutely.
So that the cookies are not being tracked.
Absolutely. But that is just the way to go. Don't try and use blog straight out of the gate to start ranking in auto insurance and cyber liability and like just focus on one area, and until you are satisfied, then don't move on until the next. And that's definitely the approach that we highly recommend for sure. The other component of that would be, okay, I now need auto insurance blogs for the next 3 months. So how many different kinds of topics can you try and figure out or to write about that are related to auto insurance, that are going to get you those auto insurance keywords, without being repetitive and actually giving good information? That's where good strategy comes into play. Carving out time to actually think on it, talk it out, maybe amongst your staff. Try to poll some of your staff members to figure out what kinds of questions are actually coming into the agency. This is where AI assist can come into play, but you got to start getting creative a little bit. The harder the key, the longer you run with the keywords, the harder it becomes to come up with consistent topics to blog about.
Yep.
But if you ever need any help with anything, just let us know.
Good stuff. And we're going to go into the live demo of AI now, of ChatGPT. But before we do, I just want to say, content is not the only factor Google, focuses on in terms of SEO, right? And ranking your site. So there's so many other factors that you may or may not be able to control, like how old your domain name is, and, how often you renew it and those kinds of things. So this is just one component. We'll probably do a webinar on SEO one of these days soon, like the general concept of it, but just remember this is just one component of it. All right, so let's get into, the live demo real quick. Shirley, this is going to be fun. You said this is usually where people have a lot of fun. So what we did here, I'm just in ChatGPT. This is the one that's the most famous, right? Maybe others have sort of won out by now, but this is the one that we just are using for this presentation. And what Charlie and I did is we drafted a little prompt to write an article about home insurance in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, but we gave it very specific instructions. So I'm going to paste that into here so you get to see what that prompt is. So let's scroll through. General instructions: please create a blog article for my independent insurance agency website focused on home insurance in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Incorporate the following. Blog topic, so I can actually clean this. Oh, well,
There you go.
I hit enter by accident.
It's going to take a while for it to write
I
anyway,
told
but
you something was going to go wrong, and it did, right? I hit
that's all
enter
good.
by accident. Anyway, so all of these instructions are in here. So while it's writing, we'll just read through. So blog topic, home insurance claims, common home insurance claims in Bethlehem and how to avoid them. The keywords are home insurance and Bethlehem, PA. The headings, we want to incorporate both keywords as much as possible in the headings. We also want to incorporate those keywords into the body. We want the blog style to be written in conversational style. We want to break up the content with headings and incorporate bullets where it makes sense. My area is the Bethlehem, Pennsylvania area, so please consider insurance concepts, weather, and other factors related to this area. And for one of the sections of the blog, I want to mention something about sinkholes. So those were our instructions to ChatGPT. And this is what it wrote. So we're obviously not going to read this article to you, but as you could see, it listened to what we asked and it did pretty much the bulk of what we asked it to do. There are home insurance and Bethlehem, PA keywords in the title. The keywords are throughout the different headings that are in here, as it made sense. It gave us common claims and how to avoid them. So the body has keywords in here as well. It's using bullet points. And as you read through this content, it's pretty darn good considering that I just added this prompt with some random instructions that took me maybe 2 minutes to put together. But this article is a pretty good result. What do you think, Chorley?
I agree. And the biggest tip I can give you, if you've never used AI or ChatGPT in particular, is the more you can give it in the initial prompt, the less work you will have to do after it's generated, right? And your brain may not necessarily go here, but like to actually tell AI to write it in a certain style, or to say, I want the blog to be written for an audience that lives in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. So it can write it in a certain style. It can write it for a certain group.
Yep.
And in this case, we kind of knew going into it, okay, like in Pennsylvania, they have these sinkholes. Like I live in Arizona. That sounds terrifying. I don't know what that means, but that's an
It's a
actual,
thing.
that's a thing in their area. And I don't know if ChatGPT would have initially gotten there unless she was prompted with it. If you don't give it enough information, what tends to happen is it will spit out something a little bit more generalized. But then our recommendations would be then to say, okay, the first draft it spits out in that fashion, you've got to read it and then give it more. Okay, so that first run, it sounded a little robotic. Could you write it more in a conversational style? Or, you know what, it's not talking enough about the geographic oddities of Pennsylvania. Can you talk more about sinkholes? Or, hey, if you're writing a blog on boating insurance, it's not mentioning maybe some of the local geographic lakes or rivers. Can you talk a little bit about some of the rivers? Like you can keep adding stuff to it, and then it will rewrite the blog with those considerations in mind.
And this is
So
where you can also add the E&O stuff that we talked about, right? So like as it
yes,
writes it
yes.
and you read it and you're like, ooh, it shouldn't say this and it shouldn't say this and it shouldn't say that. Say, hey, can you rewrite this but eliminate these words? Do not use words like this in the article.
And Ryan asked if we could scroll back up to look at the instructions. I think you did that. Okay,
Yep,
so
I did. Yep.
yeah.
Yep, I did. So, so really, this is something that I would encourage you to just play with. Just get in here. It's free. Just play with it and see what happens. But you could do so much more with it. I mean, I could literally say to ChatGPT right now, hey, can you come up with some alternate, yep, that's how you spell it, blog titles for this article? Ah, and submit that.
Yep, and it will come up
And
with,
it's just going to give me a bunch of other random titles that I
or
could
even higher level, like, hey, thank you for that. Can you come up with some more blog ideas around homeowners insurance in Pennsylvania? Or
yep,
are there any other considerations we can make?
yep.
You'll be surprised with how much it is able to come up with.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, now Monica specifically put into the instructions that she wanted the keywords to be added into the blog. Now that's really important because sometimes if you don't ask ChatGPT to do that, sometimes it'll do it, sometimes it won't. So you have to really take that proofreading part of this, and before that goes on your website, you got to say, okay, which of these is going to be my H2 subheaders, right? And then do I have my keywords spread out enough within, for that keyword strategy? So that's where having the Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, or the homeowners insurance keywords within those headers is going to be really important. So just keep that in mind. Again, you can ask ChatGPT to do it up front. If you don't, just take a look at that in your proofreading process before it publishes on your site.
Yep. All right, so we're going to get back into this. We're almost done with the presentation. So now we are ready for your questions and an open discussion. So feel free to throw your questions in the Q&A area of this webinar. You can use chat, but it'll just be easier to answer them through Q&A because we won't lose track of the questions. And while you think on your questions, I just threw up a slide here. So this is actually the majority of our Agency Revolution team. Some of them are cut off because I couldn't get them all into this vertical arrangement of the image, but you'll see a couple of our sales folks on here. Jason Walker, our president. Scott White is the CEO of FMG, our parent company. There's Grayson and Joel. So there's a lot of my operations people in here. So you kind of get the vibe of who we are, and we like to have fun. This was a team day that we just did at Top Golf. But if you do want to chat with us, you can connect with our sales team. And I'm going to grab this link and add it to the chat. So if you'd like a demo on our website or marketing automation product, you can just use this link here that I'm adding to chat. Or if you want to reach out to our client experience team because you'd like some help with blogging or you want us to set up your blog for you or add those articles for you, you can reach out to us at team@agencyrevolution.com. So questions, Charlie, what do we got?
What is your recommendation for a tool to see where your website ranks? A very fair question.
Yeah, if you want to use an actual tool, I mean, you could, something that we use at Agency Revolution is SEMrush. That's a good one. It's very robust. It can get expensive. There is a free version that you could utilize. But I would say, honestly, if you don't want to go completely official with it, you could use Chorley's strategy that he presented a few minutes ago. Open up a incognito web browser session. So if you're on Google Chrome, for example, just, when you select open new session, you could choose incognito mode, which basically means it kind of erases all of the data behind your search history, and just search for specific keywords that you're targeting to see where you come up. Now, keep in mind, you can't search for everything because you have to really think about, like, if you do have a website, what was that website optimized for, right? If you have a Forge website, we do part of our website build is to optimize your site for local SEO. So what we'll do is focus on your physical office location and optimize for that. And then obviously all of the different, the coverage pages that are the coverages that are most important to you. So really understand like what you want to rank for, then do that incognito search to see where you pop up on search results, and then decide, okay, is that what I actually want to target? And then you can begin this process.
Absolutely. I've even seen some clients just open up a very simple like spreadsheet or Google sheet that so they can actually kind of monitor so that okay, I'm going to search homeowners insurance Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Though that is literally the keywords I'm putting into Google. I'm counting, literally just counting the amount of people that are in front of me, and I'm notating that in my spreadsheet. So okay, I'm ranking 8th now. Now remember, when you're looking at ranks on Google, there's some that are sponsored, so those are people that are paying for that spot. So that does not count. So you're looking at where you are ranking amongst other agencies that aren't sponsored or paying for that spot. The other consideration too is that who's ranking in front of you that's an independent agency versus some other people that aren't even in the insurance game, like, so keep that in mind as you're sort of looking at who's ahead of you, because likely with the right strategy, you'll probably outpace a lot of those other like non-insurance related posts if those are coming up in front of you for some reason. But as Monica said, be realistic. If you're in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, don't run a search for Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, because you're likely not going to rank. Your website is not optimized in that area.
Yeah, and don't just run a search for home insurance or car
Right,
insurance, because guaranteed you're not going to pop up in
right.
those results. Okay, so we answered that one live. Let's see here. So when using, George is asking, when using the strategy, are we required to include any sort of AI disclaimer in the article or any part of our website? Not that I'm aware of.
No,
Charlie? You?
no. I
No.
mean, I would just say a lot of people tend to think about AI as like they're cheating on a test, and I would just say you're not doing anything wrong by using AI. Amazing as it sounds, when you use AI and the specific prompts that you are using with AI, it is producing a unique piece just for you. It may be very similar to what it produces for other people, but it's not exactly the same, and you're not breaking any rules by using it. So you're not. I don't, so you're, as far as I'm aware, you're not, required to put any sort of disclaimer saying that this is AI generated content. The question will eventually be, will the almighty Google eventually figure out that this is all AI content? I have no idea. I tend to think that the AI boom here is actually helping Google. There's more people using, so it's probably in general like benefiting Google right now. But we will never know the answers to those types of questions. But no, I would recommend use AI where you can, and don't have any second thoughts about it. You're not doing anything wrong there.
And you can get around that concern. If it really is a concern for you, use it as a starting point. The
Yeah,
article that I showed you, that we wrote using the prompt, that I plugged into Chat GPT, that can be your starting point. Then take that article and finesse it a little bit. Do a little bit of light editing, so you could infuse a little bit more of your agency personality into it. Maybe you want to swap out a sentence or two, or a few words here and there, because that doesn't sound like us, or yeah, that's not 100% accurate. So, but if you do that, that'll take you 5 minutes versus probably 5 hours to write the
mm-hmm.
article from scratch. Because I don't know about you guys, I don't consider myself a writer. I mean, I can write, but I'm not a writer. And if I'm sitting down to write a blog article or anything really, uh, from scratch, I spend probably 4 hours just trying to figure out what the heck to put as my first sentence, because like the creativity is just not flowing, and I'm constantly like questioning whether this is a good approach or a good beginning or whatever, and I'm so wrapped up in my brain that I just never get it done. But by using AI, you can get started and then sort of make it better from there. We have we're tied into ChatGPT, at Agency Revolution internally. We just use it as a tool for a variety of things, just to make work a little bit more efficient for ourselves. And I use it all the time. I mean, I sometimes use it like, hey, can you give me some ideas on what I can do to promote a webinar? Hey, can you write me a quick little birthday announcement post for one of my team members? Here's what you need to know about them. And I just use it to get myself started on these things. And then once it gives me whatever it gives me, I go in and I tweak it and I make it sound more like me, and it's a resource for me. So consider it a resource versus some evil robot
Yes,
AI thing
absolutely.
that, is going to come get you.
Well
So,
said, Monica.
yeah. Any other questions? I think we answered most of the questions. It sounds like we've had some nice comments.